So yeah, today we're going to talk about how you can accelerate your multi-platform SSI development using Aries Framework JavaScript. It's a framework we work with a lot, and yeah, we want to share some things about. Today we'll be speaking with Jan. Maybe Jan, if you can give a short introduction of yourself.
Yeah, my name is Jan. I'm a developer at Animo, and today I'm going to talk to you about a self-sovereign identity demo I made. So stay tuned for that.
Cool. Yeah, and I'm Timo. I'm one of the co-founders of Animo. I'm also a developer myself. And at Animo Solutions, we do a lot of consultancy and development on SSI solutions, on self-sovereign identity. And therefore, we work a lot with a lot of the open source self-sovereign identity solutions out there. And of course, if we work with it a lot, we have our favorite, where we also work on a lot. And yeah, that's basically where we we'll talk about today. So the goal really of today is introduce you to the benefits of Aries Framework JavaScript if you build SSI solutions, and also basically to make your life easier by introducing you to the framework and see if it's a fit for you, what it has to offer, what our experience are with it. We assume a bit of SSI experience, but it's not required. But maybe some of the concepts that we'll talk about will be a bit easier to pick up, if so. There are not too many people. If you're like working with SSI, of like, you can leave in the chat why you're here, or what you would like to learn. If you can leave that in chat, and maybe later we can pick it up, have a discussion about it, and see also what you're interested to talk about. All right, so what we'll cover today is, I'll give a short intro on self-sovereign identity, just to get everyone on the same page. We won't go in depth too much. Also because eventually one of the goals, what we want is that you don't need to be an expert on SSI to be able to get start building on SSI. But yeah, we'll just go in a short introduction. We'll go a bit in depth on multi-platform SSI development, what it exactly means. And we'll also go then into more details on Aries Framework JavaScript, the framework we work with a lot. Yeah, next to it, I will talk a bit more about a pilot project we did, Binnen Bereik. It's a Dutch name. I'll tell more about it later, but just like what some of the characteristics or what AFJ, Aries Framework JavaScript, has to offer, and what it especially had to offer in that project. And then Jan will give a demo he made for us. He's been working on it for months, and it's built on top of Aries Framework JavaScript. And I think it gives a really good sense of what can you build with Aries Framework JavaScript, and also how you build it and what it has to offer. And as a last thing, I just like to talk on what's next for the framework. What have we built on in the last year, and also what will we be focusing on in the coming year. So yeah, let's get started. If you have questions in between, please feel free to either raise your hand or put them in the chat. I will cover, I think, some of the slides first, some theory, but I also am really interested to hear if you have questions or what you would like to know. So feel free to raise your hand or put your questions in the chat. So a very short introduction on what SSI is. I think there are a lot of explanations for it, and to keep it really simple, SSI allows you or individuals to have control and ownership over their identity. And that's a really short explanation, but something we don't have today with digital identity. Like it's never in our control. It's always stored on servers of other companies. We can lose access to it at any moment. We don't have insight in what gets shared with who and at what time. So an SSI is just really a philosophy that thinks that we should have all those rights. So there are a lot of benefits to self-sovereign identity. I think, yeah, not losing access to accounts and losing our data is one of them. For companies, yeah, becoming GDPR compliant becomes a lot easier if you don't store data on your own server anymore, but store it with the owner of the data, the end user. It helps a lot with privacy. It helps a lot with transparency. Like if I store the data myself and I control and have ownership over it, it becomes a lot easier to know what I share with people and when it's shared. So yeah, I think in a nutshell, and I think it also, if we look at like the different models you have of identity and where we came from, with the central identity is you create an account at every service or website, and everyone will ask you for a username and a password, and you create a unique account. This works pretty well, I think, especially in the beginning if you don't have too many accounts, but in the end it becomes quite annoying because you need a username and a password for every site, which in the end means probably also that you have more, yeah, less security because you will just use the same password for every site. So you also have then federated identity, and you use an external identity provider to basically make life more easier for you. Think Google sign in, Facebook sign in, LinkedIn sign in. Every large service provider offers is their own identity system nowadays. And it's very easy to use. It's very convenient because they store a profile on you. Whenever you sign in, you can just share your basic information, such as your email, your first name, and then you have like an account set up in seconds. But you do have a single point of failure, and it's also the data is stored with the companies you least trust, for most of us. So if we go to like the Web 3.0 era, and we have self-sovereign identity, basically is websites will connect to your SSI wallet. You won't have 20 different buttons anymore, but you will only have a single button. And that allows you to access services and securely share information about yourself without relying on external parties. So yeah, I think that's a great improvement. And I think, yeah, you can see it as like a physical wallet you have with a self-sovereign identity wallet. And it's just, you get cards for your gym that you sport, and then you can use that to sign in there. So I think people are familiar with SSI probably know this image or a version related to it. And that's the triangle of trust. And that's how most relationships in SSI work, is we have an issuer, and an issuer issues credentials or attestations and signs them and gives them to the holder. And the important thing here is all data is then stored with the holder. And whenever somebody needs to know something about a holder, let's say I go to a bar and I need to prove my age, is I share the credential to the verifier directly. So the issuer is not involved anymore. And this is also, again, really the same way as you would do it in an offline interaction, where if I show my ID card in the offline world, it's I just show it, nobody knows I share it, and they verify it. So with SSI, we basically we digitize our physical wallet and have control over it. I think, yeah, SSI is great, but I think if you're familiar with it, there are quite a lot of complexities in building SSI solutions. I think you have two ways you can go. You can go with a proprietary solution, and in general, they do provide an easier setup because, yeah, that's their goal. They take away the complexity for you, and that's why you pay there for a service. But there are also a lot of people wanting to build their own infrastructure, and there are quite some challenges to face, and that's also because the SSI space is really new, and yeah, it hasn't gotten the years of people working on it and making open source software. But yeah, I think the first one is the tooling is oftentimes not easy to use yet. Like it's hard to get started, and it's also lacking in features. So if you want to do a complex case, it doesn't have to offer. Another thing is also that you need a lot of domain knowledge. Like if you want to build an SSI solution, you need to know about the tech stack. You need to know which of the different standards you want to use for the tech stack. You need to find implementations for these different technologies you want to use, if there are any, and you need to know how to implement them, and also maybe in the different programming language that are used around them. So these two, I think, yeah, already can be a real pain. In addition, there's also interoperability between different implementations. And that is, if I create an implementation and somebody else, then they also need to talk with each other. And oftentimes that's harder than initially. Yeah, theoretical interoperability is a lot easier than practical interoperability. There are a lot of implementations. If you create two implementations, oftentimes there's just some things that go different between them. You need to fix them, especially if you work in SSI and there are a lot of different parties involved. Yeah, everybody needs to communicate with each other. They need to align. You need to fix that. That can be really complex to solve. And also oftentimes with SSI, you need multiple implementations. If we go in the next slide, we had the triangle of trust, and the issuer oftentimes needs an implementation, the holder, and the verifier. And also, oftentimes there are mobile wallets involved, and the mobile wallets are now full complex SSI agents. They need to store credentials, they need to communicate with others. So yeah, a lot of complexity involved in that. So that's basically what we try to solve with Aries Framework JavaScript. It's a framework you can use to build SSI applications, and it's written in TypeScript, and you can use it to create connections, issue credential, present proofs, and it tries to solve a lot of the complexities mentioned in the previous slide. It doesn't solve everything, but the development it can solve a lot. So I'll go into a bit of the benefits of AFJ, and I think a big benefit we have encountered is that you can run AFJ in multiple platforms, and that means you're not tied to, for example, the server, but it can run in the server side for Node.js. You can also run it on mobile phones using React Native. So using a single framework where we implement everything, you can create server-side applications, and you can also create mobile applications. If we look at, for an example, and we take the triangle of trust again, and we need to we have a use case where we need to create an issuer. server-side service, and we also need to create a holder and a verifier mobile wallet. We can use Aries Framework JavaScript and create on the same infrastructure, create multiple applications. This can have a lot of benefit because the developers only need to learn a single framework. They need to learn a single framework to build multiple services. And also all things you implement will directly be available inside all of those services. And I think another benefit really is because it works with React Native, is it also solves the problem of having to need to build two mobile applications for both iOS and Android in two different languages. Yeah, you get a single application that runs on both iOS and Android. So when you need to create a wallet or something for your SSI use case, yeah, it can save just enormous amount of time with just that, yeah, only writing a single wallet. So another thing that's also what I talked about before is interoperability with other implementations. So if you use AFJ for a multi-platform SSI development, you already can be assured of yeah, interoperability, because we do a lot of testing with our own framework. And if you use the same tech stack in general, it's a lot easier to be interoperable. But we also make sure, because yeah, with AFJ, that we're interoperable with other implementations. For example, you have a very popular implementation in Python, EchoPy, and we have daily tests that run for interoperability each day. So whenever something breaks, we can fix that and make sure that even if you create an ecosystem with implementations that are different from just your ecosystem, but you need to interoperate with others, or you want to create your own ecosystem where you use other implementations for the issuer service, then you can use that. So you can choose and pick as you like. Let's see. Yeah, I think another benefit is that we see with using Aries Framework JavaScript or being active in the open source community is that you do yeah, have a lot of open source collaboration, and everyone benefits of the contributions of each other. So yeah, there are a lot of people working on the same framework, and the standards are oftentimes moving really quick. And with this, if you yeah, have your own proprietary implementation, once the standards update, you need to update all your implementations. And by working together on that, I think that can have great benefit, especially because for most companies, I think the business value is not in the SSI tech layer, but more in what you can do with it. And then it's just like more of a need. Yeah, a need. We need the SSI tech stack to be able to build our applications with it. Okay. So I would like to go in depth a bit on one a pilot project we have done, just to showcase yeah, how we leverage AFJ here, especially for multi-platform SSI development. And it highlights some of the benefits discussed earlier, and just show really a theoretical use case and where we applied AFJ for this. And later on, with also the demo of Jan, we can go into a more practical implementation of something built on top of AFJ. So binnen bereik it's Dutch for within reach, and it's a pilot project to let off-duty firefighters help in case of an emergency. So the problem that exists is that we have the dispatch center when you call 911 and there's an emergency. And how can we find and connect qualified volunteers to the dispatch center, so that when professionals are on their way or it takes a bit longer, that they can assist, because oftentimes there are a lot of people that can help in situations, but maybe it's the dispatch center can't find them, or they're scared that if they just send somebody to an emergency situation, whether that person is actually qualified to do these things. Like, you don't want to send someone to an emergency to do CPR if they're not actually qualified to do that. So the solution to it is connect the dispatch to a pool of qualified volunteers, and so they can manage the volunteers, and basically have extra resources. So they already have the emergency services and they can manage those, but how can we also connect them to volunteers so they can help. So for a pilot project we did this is where we leverage SSI and also verify credentials to do this in a more privacy preserving manner. Like, we could do it with storing everything in a server with the dispatch center, but that would mean all qualifications would need to be stored on the service. But what we looked at here is how can we store the qualifications as a credential on the mobile phone, so that when an emergency arises, we look close to an emergency and we just see like who in here is qualified to help. And if I'm qualified and I'm nearby, I can respond to an emergency, show a proof of my credential, and then I could be sent to an emergency. I think why this is a great example of how we can leverage AFJ for multi-platform development is that we needed multiple applications for this pilot project. We need an issuer service so we can issue the credentials to the firefighters. We need a holder wallet where they can store the credentials and also that can lead the volunteer firefighters to an emergency location. And also a verifier service that can locate the qualified firefighters and also verify the credentials before sending them off to an emergency. As a last step, we also needed custom DITCOM protocols, so the protocols that communicate between the different parties to share the location where you're currently at and also respond to an emergency. Using those different elements, we could, for the server side, we could leverage the framework in Node.js for both the issuer and the verifier and have the web services implemented. For the mobile wallet, we used React Native and could also use the framework there. So that means for a single use case, we could create several different applications, all built on the same framework, meaning it became easier to manage and implement. And it also means that the custom protocols we needed to build only needed to be implemented once instead of across several different implementations, framework implementations. Okay, let's see, maybe before we go into the demo, are there any questions up until now? Cool. Jan, let's do the demo then.
Yes, can you allow me to screen share?
Yes. I think you can already share a screen.
Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, I think you should now.
Yep, your host.
Ah, yes. There we go. Share. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. For the last few months, I've been working on a self-sovereign identity demo. So here Timo talk about AFJ and some high-level stuff, and I'm here to give you, a view at the demo I created with AFJ and to let you to show you how easy it is. That's what I want to show you. So I actually want you guys to join in because we released it yesterday and it's now live. So if anyone can share the link in the chat or just type in the URL on screen, demo.animo.id, then you guys can all join me and try this for yourself. So I have my setup right here. On the left, you see my wallet, and on the right, you see the demo page. So yeah, let's jump right in. Try demo. So first off, we set up the demo in quite a different way as other self-sovereign identity demos. So we want to be aimed at people who have zero understanding of SSI. We wanted to be, Animo wants SSI to be more mainstream, more accessible to people. One part of that is working with to make it easier for developers. But we also wanted to give a practical solution for people who have no idea what SSI is and to let them experience how this actually works. So first up, you of course need a wallet. So for that, we made this screen where you can choose your own wallet. There are many SSI wallets available, but they don't all work with AFJ. We want AFJ to be we work on interoperability with AFJ, but some wallets are just not compliant with the features we want to use. So we want to use out-of-band use cases and that kind of stuff. And some wallets don't work with that. So we've picked the Lizzy wallet and the Trinsic wallet. So you see the Lizzy wallet here. If you click on it, you can scan the QR code and download the wallet for yourself. If you go with the Lizzy wallet, you're fine, but the Trinsic wallet also needs the right ledger to be selected. Otherwise, you can't receive your credentials. So we're using the Lizzy wallet, and here we go. We can now choose our character, because what we find is that people learn more when it's closer to them. So if I'm a student, I want to experience SSI use cases that stay close to me, and business people have different use cases as well. So we try to focus different end users with these characters. We also have a millennial, and these are the three characters we started with. They all have different use cases you can explore. So for this one, I'm going to use the student. Choose as you like. You can change your character later. So we pick the student, and here we can create our connection. So what it's actually doing in the background is we created a REST API that uses AFJ. And this makes it very easy for you to implement AVA in your application, because it's just an API call that you have to do. And you can put it in you can get the QR code in your front end. So I'm going to use my phone now to scan the QR code. There we go. And here we see Animo wants to connect with you. Let's accept this connection and hope it works. There we go. We are now connected. So as you can see, we have a nice Animo logo here. And that's all things we built in AVA to make it easy to build on AVA and to show with who you are connecting. So next up, we have the connection. And now we're going to give the user some starter credentials. And we do this to, later in the demo, show them some more interesting use cases. So for the student, you actually get your Animo ID card with some nice information in it. So let's accept this credential. And there we go. We can now continue. So I think we have it all set up. Let's go. And here we see the 3 use cases you can explore with the student. You can enroll into law school, you can go dancing, and you can obtain your free gym membership, but we first need our university card for that. So let's unlock our university card and enroll into law school. This is the start of the use case. So it's very clear what we're going to do. We're going to connect with the University of Law. We need to present our Animo ID card to share our information with the school. And at the end of that, we receive our university card. First up, make a connection with the school. There we go. And what you can see here is that we are seeing a different image and a different name, University of Law. And what it's actually doing in the background is it's using AFJ with the same agent, but for different connections, we can set different images. So we only have one agent in the background, but it looks like we're connecting with a different agent in the wallet app. So let's accept the connection. There we go. And now we're going to submit our application. And the university would like some information from us. So here's the request. We see they want to know our name and our date of birth, and we can share that very easily with them. And there we go. The values are actually extracted from the proof request and shown to the user on screen. That is a great overview on how a proof request works. And we've submitted our application and we actually got in. All right, so there you go. We're getting our university cards. And there are the values we just submitted to the University of Law. They are used in our credential university cards. Let's accept it. There we go. And at the end, we have a nice overview of the steps we took. So we connected with the university, we safely presented our data, and we actually got in and got our university cards. Okay, now we can obtain our free gym membership. Let's also do that then. Here we go again. We see we're connecting with the gym. We need to present 2 things this time. And at the end, we receive our gym membership. So there we go, same story. We're connected to the gym. Let's accept. And we need to prove some stuff about ourselves. What do we want to know? The name, date of birth, and our university card. So here's the request, and let's send it over. Great. And we're eligible for a free membership. So there it is already, a gym membership for us. You can accept it, and there we go. Congratulations. So lastly, we have the last use cases. Don't go dancing at Club Animo. And this actually uses the out-of-band protocol to skip the connection step and just only present our Animo ID card at the bouncer, for the bouncer at the club. So yeah, you're waiting in line. and we need to prove our age. So let's scan this QR code. There we go, show the request. So we're actually not sharing any data here. We're only saying, are you old enough to enter this club? So the date is less or equal than this date. So we're just sending yes or no. So let's prove we're over 18. And there we go. Okay, we can now enter the club. With that, we didn't share any data. We just answered the question with yes or no. There we go. And we completed the use case. All right, we've completed this character. Great. And when I finish, I come back to the home page and now I can go explore the other characters. So I encourage you all to try this demo or share it with some of your friends or family. I think it is a great and accessible overview of what SSI actually is. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. All right.
Great job, guys. Very smooth experience. Very good to see.
Thank you.
Cool stuff. Cool stuff.
One question, please.
Yes.
In your Aries agent, you use BBS Plus as signature?
No, we don't use BBS signatures yet. This is currently built with Indie credentials. That's also why we can do the predicates with age proving. But we will be working on BBS Plus support in the coming months. But it's currently not supported yet. We'll get to that also a bit later with the roadmap. But yeah, definitely something we want to work on.
Okay, that's you use CL signature?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Good.
Because are you specifically interested in BBS Plus signatures for a specific use case?
No, I show that you work about this subject. You implement BBS Plus. That's my question is about BBS Plus.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that was in Python.
Good job. Thank you.
Oh yeah. We previously implemented BBS Plus signature support in Aries Cloud Agent Python, but not yet in Aries Framework JavaScript.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. We'll share the slides with you later. The demo is actually open source, so the source code is online. You can check it out. And there's also a link to the AFJ REST package we used. So yeah.
Can
back
we
to you.
can we have the record of demo?
Yes, the recording of today will be going on YouTube, I think.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, let's see. I think you need to make me host again, Jan.
Crazy how after all this time of COVID, nobody knows how Zoom works still. It's a mystery.
All right, let me see. Share. All right. So yeah. If you want to check out the demo yourself, you can also check out the source code to see how Jan created this demo. So I want to go shortly in like what the current status is and what the roadmap is, like what did we all work on, also the other contributors of AFJ in 2021, and what's also on the roadmap for 2022. I think there's a lot of people working on the framework, and so also a lot of stuff we can do in the coming year, which I'm pretty excited about. I think in 2021 we have just released our first version, 0.10. But even though it's a low version number, it doesn't mean it doesn't have a lot of features. So we basically have Aries intro profile v1 support at the moment. We can create DITCOM connections with other agents. We can issue, hold, and verify in the credentials. So you can use it as a mobile holder wallet, but you can also use it as a verifier or issuer. We have mediation for mobile edge devices. So if you're building mobile wallets, it can run in both Node.js and React Native. So a good foundation. And in 2022, we want to work on mostly the next phase of the Aries standards. Currently, Aries intro profile v2 is defined, and we want to work towards that. So all the protocols that are defined by that, the issue credential v2 protocol, the present proof protocol v2, the new DIT exchange protocols, we want to support. And we also want to extend to support W3C verifier credentials. Currently, the framework works with indie credentials. We want to also support W3C credentials to move more towards the standards defined. And with that, we also want to support BBS plus signatures. Currently, with indie, we have CL signatures, but BBS plus signatures, we'll be adding over the coming months. And most of this we will be adding as part of the Aries Mobile SDK we're building. This is an ASIF, or European Self-Sovereign Identity Foundation project. And we're making a mobile SDK that makes it as easy as possible for people to build mobile SSI wallets for both iOS and Android. So that's basically what we'll be focusing on